Welcome back to The Lost Drive-In by LSG Media. I'm Dean. I'm joined by my wonderful co-host and wife, Maja. And today, we're going to be doing a very brief rundown of the film Keeper from 2025. This will be spoiler heavy, so just be advised. Maja, it's a slow burn. It's folk horror. Does it deliver? Do we want to answer that now or answer that at the end?
We can hold on to that for a little bit, but I think that at least the opening of this movie had me immediately compelled. But the question is, does the opening question carry the entire movie a bit too much?
Right. That is always a question with these slow burns, and that is something that I do think is discussion worthy about Keeper. Keeper is a movie that wants to draw you into the atmosphere. It is a movie that wants you to feel exactly as the main character. Liz feels, of course, played by the incredible Tatiana Maslany from Orphan Black fame. And a lot rests on her in the middle of this film when Malcolm leaves, of course, played by Rossif Sutherland. I didn't know there were Sutherland brothers.
I didn't know that there was more Sutherlands.
More than a Kiefer? I had no idea. But when he steps away in the middle of the film, a lot rests on her. So that is the question that this is trying to force us to answer. I like to be put into the movie. I like to feel an immersive experience. I like to allow myself to feel as if I am there. And I think that's the exercise that you have to do in order for the Keeper to keep you, pardon the pun, entertained or at least enthralled throughout the entire picture. How are you feeling right away?
Well, I love an atmospheric slow burn. So at first I'm like, okay, this seems like it's made for me. I love there's some cinematography choices and the like overlaid imagery that makes it feel like it's a visual representation of what Liz is feeling. Early on, like when she's in the bathtub and the water is flowing kind of around her head, I'm like, this is awesome because I can sense what she's feeling in this moment. And it's soothing at first, and then it becomes more and more unnerving as it goes on, which is something I really enjoy.
Absolutely.
The music too, the music adds a kind of a unknown, even timeless kind of quality at moments, which I really liked.
Right. The name of the video, the name of the man is Ido van Bremen, a Canadian-American composer. I found the music perfect because it's less musical and it is more atmospheric.
Yeah.
There are moments where it doesn't sound like if you were to listen to it on its own, you wouldn't be listening to it for the majesty that it invokes. You'd be listening to it because you want to feel exactly what was going on in that moment, and that's what it's designed for. I don't know, music invokes that, but this particular score really worked for me. And then, of course, you have the soundtrack, which has a lot of old-timey music and such. But there are distinct things working in Keeper. There is the atmospheric slow burn, as we're calling it. And then on the other hand, you have the plot. And then I think finally, the other part of this that really needs to work is you have to have good performances. And largely, those performances rest on two people. And the camera is on Tatiana Maslany for the whole movie. Rarely do we look away from her. So the question becomes, do all three of those things play together enough to keep you entertained throughout the whole movie or gripped? It's funny because I think there's so much to like about this movie. I'm still trying to decide if the juice is worth the squeeze. How do you feel about that?
I feel similar, and I've kind of honed in on what issues I have. One of them is that we do really stretch on. I like a slow burn, like I said, but we really, really just stretch on the reveal and what exactly is going on here, because the question is posed immediately. Is Malcolm just a serial killer, or is there something more like even stranger and worse going on here? Clearly something very strange is going on, but it's almost like, okay, come on, just tell me already.
Right. Sure.
I'm just, how much longer is it going to go on? It's not a long movie, but I feel like it really then just jams all the reveal and everything that happens into the very end, which could have been spread out a little bit more or maybe structured a little differently. But other than that, I think the performances are very much a strong part of the movie, especially Tatiana. She is incredible.
She's great.
Yeah.
So it's a romantic getaway that turns deeply suspicious right away. And that's one of the things that I think works for the movie. We get this great opening incident where we're seeing all these women, and then subsequently we're seeing them all screaming with blood on their faces. We don't know what happens, but we know they all meet terrible fates.
Yeah.
Then we are in the picture.
Yeah,
So,
and the subtle little thing there at the opening is I immediately was like, are these from different time periods? Because their
Right.
clothing, their surroundings, I like that Osgood Perkins almost always has a bit of an 80s vibe, even if it's set in the modern day. At first I'm like, is this in modern day? Because the cars, the clothing, everything is a little bit vague. Then I see a smartphone and
Right.
I'm like, okay, it's modern day.
iPhone's a giveaway, right?
But I like that little bit of like, oh, I don't think that one woman especially, I don't think that even if she's very cottage core, I don't think anybody dresses like that.
Right,
So-
of course. Right.
and that immediately had me a little bit of like, what really is going on here? And I do enjoy that, but I feel like it stretched a little too far to where it's like, okay, we're going to reveal now, you know?
Right. I think what really sets the tone for this movie and keeps me engaged and on edge, it's very much in a tension-filled movie where as soon as the film starts, for most of the film, I'd say for at least through the first couple of acts, you feel as if you are waiting for something bad to happen. You're
Yeah.
just waiting for it to happen. So
Absolutely.
that sense of that anxiety permeates the film. And I don't mean anxiety as a discomforting feeling, but just as one that works in this genre of horror in the way this film is unfolding. Because you have Liz and you have Malcolm. Boyfriend, girlfriend, they've been together for a year. This is their first year anniversary. They're going to a cabin in the woods. By the way, I've been to a lot of cabins. I've been to a few cabins in the woods in my day, and none of them look like this. They more look like the ones from Evil Dead than some, $1 million cabin in the woods. This is not a cabin in the woods.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
is.
home in the woods. It's gorgeous. It's not
It is
nothing.
beautiful. By the way, I did not at first realize that they had been together for a year. I thought that this was like we've been seeing each other for a few weeks or maybe a couple months, and now we're going to do the first getaway trip together and kind of really spend time, just the two of us. I'm like, wait, they've been together for a year. They're so awkward and strange, and there seems to be a strange distrust and I'm like, what is going on with these two? The chemistry isn't really doing its thing.
And I think that's by design, though.
I think so, yeah.
Rossif Sutherland, who plays Malcolm in this, what I think he does a good job of is that he is a bit awkward. He is a bit guarded. And at times, even though he is tuned into Liz, he does at times oscillate between I'm paying attention and I am aloof thinking of something else. Something else is on his mind. He's preoccupied. And I think that they seem like such an odd couple because of that dynamic that he is like that and she is more outwardly affectionate. She seems to have more, quote, personality, end quote.
Yeah,
That it feels like an odd situation to the point, Maja, where in the middle of the movie, I thought to myself, this movie's going to be a switcheroo.
I thought the same.
Malcolm's going to be the victim of
Yep.
Liz. That's exactly what I thought.
I thought that might be, yeah, because if it wasn't for the cake, I would have been like, okay, well, Malcolm might actually be the victim here. But then I'm like, he was really insistent on her eating that weird ass cake.
Yes.
And that I'm like, something's going to be wrong with that. But yeah, Malcolm has something going on for him because all these women that were shown from the beginning are gorgeous. But
for sure. They are all beautiful.
The beige sweater has more personality than him. I think
right.
he's a little dull.
Malcolm
to
is
be honest.
Malcolm is a bit dull, to be honest. Yes. And I think, of course, that's how Rossif wanted it done. That's how, at least that's what the script seemed to call for, or maybe that's his personal touch. But I think it makes it even more interesting because it makes him feel a little distant. And because he feels distant, it makes you more suspicious of him because he is not, he seems impenetrable at times and he speaks quietly. And there are times where I feel like he has a strange accent and he looks kind of weird. You know, if Denis Villeneuve and Vincent D'Onofrio could have a child, it would be Ross Sutherland or Malcolm in this film. I deeply believe that he looks like a mishmash of those two people. But yeah, I did start to feel as if something is strange going on. In the cake scene, of course, this standout moment because the interruption by the brother and the brother's
cousin
and the cousin's model girlfriend, and he insists on coming in, and we see that Malcolm is deferential. He won't just, and immediately what I think this movie does is it goes from Liz feeling, we feel this odd tension with Liz in the movie, and then we start to feel Liz feeling a sense of she's being invaded.
Yes.
With the arrival of the cousin and the way Malcolm just lets him in, and this is supposed to be our weekend. Now we're dealing with this guy who's acting like a weirdo and this woman who's on drugs, clearly. And at one point, she just looks at Liz, that great mic drop, and she just says, "The cake tastes like shit," when no one else is around. And that's the moment that puts us into this cake scene that you're talking about. Tell me about this moment where just talk about the cake for a minute.
Well, first of all, when I saw the box with the like chocolatey fingerprint smear on top of it, I'm like, there is not anything in the world that would make me eat this cake. I will not eat a thing that who the hell is this caretaker?
Right.
What is in this cake? Has it been, proper hygiene been practiced when this was made? Come to find out, it was made by creatures in the basement, so I don't think they had proper hygiene.
Right. The whole creature reveal. But
yeah.
You are correct. Malcolm is insistent on her eating the cake, and it's very strange.
It is strange.
And there's a few moments where she doesn't want to eat it. And then she's like, "I don't really like chocolate." And when she ever says, "I don't like chocolate," and he insists on her eating it, you start to feel the walls closing in on Liz. Like she is now becoming slowly a prisoner of this place. But then she eats it without much pomp and circumstance. And then later in the film, she's eating it as if she's having sex with it. She's mushing it into her face and sucking on her fingers. You're like, what is happening?
And what was inside it
is
when
she the bad
reaches
guy?
into it? That was
acted that way.
That was
like,
a
what's going on here?
wonderfully weird scene where she eats the cake, wanders out of the gets out of bed and is just wandering around the house, and then ends up devouring the entire cake. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
It's spooky
what
as
was
hell.
inside it? I like that it wasn't obvious, or maybe I just missed it, but it looked like balls of manure or something. It was weird.
It didn't look good. It did not look good. No, it was terrible. But when she was acting that way, I thought to myself, is Liz not what she seems? Now,
yeah.
I backed into being right about that because Liz is not what she seems. But we're talking about the tension here. Let's talk about this flip into folk horror. Let's talk about these moments of the hauntings in the house, because it's a slow burn. There's a lot to like. But ultimately, Maja, and I'm desperate to know your answer because I've yet to ask you this question. And we saw this yesterday. I've yet to ask my wife this very question. Spoiler, because I knew we were going to sit and do this. Is it scary?
I get scared decently easily, depending on what kind of horror it is. But any kind of like things lurking in the darkness and jumping out do get me easily. I did not really find it scary. There was a couple moments where the thing is behind her with the head starting. I'm like, no, stop it.
The head's on
the long snake-like neck. That was creepy, but then quickly, unfortunately, they looked a little silly.
They did. What did you think about when? So, in the middle of the picture, as I hinted at before, Malcolm leaves. He's a doctor. He says he has this whole elderly patient, and this elderly patient is in a medically induced coma, and they're trying to get her out, and they need her to go do what he does. Great. So then the script says, now, Tatiana, it's on you. Be scared. Show us your face. Show us what you can do. Because we're sitting in the audience and we're going, okay, she's all alone in this big, beautiful place that's slowly starting to feel like a prison. And then we have to really put ourselves in her shoes. And to do that, we have to watch her be afraid. And there is a lot of that fear because we see these creatures. It goes from subtle, is this guy a serial killer, as you indicated, Maja, to now there's a bunch of wacky monsters.
Yeah,
does that hurt the movie for you?
Eventually I think it does, but the arrival to that I enjoy, where it feels like is she losing her mind?
Right.
Why is she
Is
seeing
she
these
drugged
things?
from the cake
Yeah,
still?
is she drugged? She mentions to the friend, I feel like I've taken mushrooms.
Right.
And it's like she's momentarily tripping. And I really like the way that is executed. It feels like you're in the character's shoes. You can feel the strange and the jarring moments of like, wait, what did I just see? It's very immersive and well done. I enjoy that. But then when we do eventually see the creatures, I'm a bit like, I don't know.
Right. One of the things the movie does too, right in the beginning, Maja, is when she's taking a bath, before anything weird starts to happen, we see that a bit of mist, as if from breath, is put on the window behind her, and the heart is drawn on it. So it's at this point when you're watching the picture and you go, okay, now I should have said this at the beginning. I didn't read anything or see any previews for this. I knew nothing about this.
I didn't know anything
nothing about this movie. And I went, okay, we're going to go supernatural, which I don't mind. But that was an indicator to me that now we're in a supernatural picture. So I was expecting to see increasingly supernatural creatures, which is why I didn't find it tonally out of place.
Yeah, no, I think because I thought that maybe this is happening to her only in her own mind, like is something going on with her to where she's sensing these things around her, because there is all these cool like double exposure shots of the water flowing around her and all the other like her feeling things and the way it's visually portrayed.
Indeed.
Which is very effective. But I'm like, is all the strange things, are they actually happening there for real, or is it just what she's sensing and feeling? So
I think we were supposed to feel that way too. Is it in her head? Because when she does fall asleep in the tub and the heart appears behind her and she snaps awake, it is not there. So it is a moment where we go, okay, is this really happening or is it not? And there's a lot of moments where we see these creepy things, again, leading into this line we're on. Is it scary? Is it not? Where they're behind her, she turns around and they're gone. But then she starts to see things, a woman with a bag on her head and flies, and it addresses her. Like it's responding to her. And that's when the barn doors just blow open in this movie and we go, holy shit. These monsters are present. They're on the roof. They're here. They're there. They're everywhere.
Once they start crawling around, though, I'm a bit like, I don't know if I love the way they look.
Seen too much, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. And well, when we get to the basement and when we actually see them, I think my problem with them is that they don't feel like they match the folk horror feeling. They feel like they escaped from a circus.
You are absolutely right. That's such a great point.
They even seem to have like the one who that is coming down the stairs kind of awkwardly and steam coming out of its mouth.
Sure.
Just seems to have like a modern long sleeve shirt on. I'm like, they don't feel like creatures that an 18th century witch would have given birth to.
Right. That is a really good point.
I was hoping for something more organic and natural and like ancient and strange. They are very strange, and I really enjoy that they went for something completely new and not established, not like an established folklore or anything of the sort. They're completely new, and I think that people are pretty high on the creatures, but I found them just a little bit tonally dissonant with the rest of the movie.
Yeah, you weren't a fan of the
well, the one with the mouth open, lighting the candles, that was creepy. I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, but that's a creepy looking dude, to be clear.
And the one with the several faces is really cool looking too. I think that's like an amalgamation of all the different women that had been killed over the years, which is a great idea. But still, something about the design of the beings was just a little off for me.
What The scariest moment in this movie to me is when Malcolm sits down with Liz and he says, "You're going to die."
Yeah.
And he's very matter of fact, and she just bursts into begging for her life, crying, which was very realistic.
It was very real. Those are the kind of moments out of her that feel just genuine, and the horror comes through in the way she's feeling instead of the jumpy, scary things.
And that's when
coming out.
Malcolm's serial killer vibe is there, because he seems very unfeeling about the whole thing. And that moment is horrifying, because everything that we were concerned about, everything we were wondering about, is it in her head, is it not in her head? She's questioning Malcolm on all these things, and he just says, "You're going to die, and here's why." Well, because was it his brother or his cousin? We shot this witch from a couple hundred years ago. So the story unravels pretty intensely that they shot this woman who was a witch, and it must have, maybe you can explain that plot point a little bit better than me.
Yeah,
What is the backstory?
So the strange woman they've been seeing her around in their father's property, and she's dancing naked by the stream and doing all kinds of weird things. So they decide to drive her away and shoot her, and
Weird.
instead drag her into their pig pen and lock her up there, where she then eventually gives birth to the beings.
The beings.
The beings. And then they decide to just shoot her, as one does.
Yes.
To a woman who's just given birth. She does have weird eyes,
children
though.
do that. This is, by the way, probably the most unrealistic part of this is how they casually blow a woman away and their children with muskets. That's a little silly to me.
Yeah, she does have creepy witch eyes, but still a little harsh, a little psychotic
Very hardcore.
from these brothers already
Very
at that
hardcore.
age.
Yeah, I don't know about all that.
I don't know. It also feels a little bit like, okay, I've been waiting the entire movie for what the reveal is, and then we get kind of the usual, like, okay, let me explain you the whole thing.
You are correct. It is a big lore dump at the end.
I was hoping for something different than the usual, okay, let's just explain everything.
Right. Yeah. He starts to talk about, like, here's what happened, here's the whole story, and now you're going to die.
Yeah.
Now, the rub in the big interesting reveal about this is that this witch that was killed looks precisely like Liz. So we're getting this bit of a reincarnation effect, because ultimately the tables are turned. The creatures do look at Liz as mom, and then Liz unleashes creatures upon Malcolm and then wins in the end, right? I mean, that's really what happens here. It goes from the isolation to this big bargain that was this supernatural bargain that was exposed, and then this complete revenge, empowerment, escape film, right?
Yeah, and I have a couple of logistical questions. Obviously, the whole, like, how did Malcolm get away with all of this? Not just killing the women, but existing for over 200 years. There's some questions there. But also, why...
Less is more there, though. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I know, but
yeah.
Why in the world would he end up in a relationship with a woman who looks exactly like the witch that he killed? Because if that was me, I would run as fast as I could the other way and be like, nope, that's the bitch reincarnated. I'm not going to have anything to do with her.
Ooh, that's a glaring problem.
Why would he get involved with her?
That is a glaring issue. And someone's going to say it was 200 years ago. I'm going to say, when you put a rifle up to somebody's head and pull the trigger, you don't forget what they look like.
And he says...
Not that I would know from personal experience to any law enforcement listening, but...
He says it. He says somehow you look exactly like her.
And he still wanted to do this with her? What a dingling.
He still wanted to sacrifice her to the creatures who now obviously are like, hey, mom's back. Yeah.
Yep, that's a bit of a glaring plot hole that I didn't catch. So thank you for highlighting it to me. Yeah, that's unfortunate. So, yeah, so that's what you have. A lot of good and some not so good. The tension, the performances, the atmosphere, the location, the way it's shot is wonderful. Yeah. There's nothing to be taken away from that. I think we get away from less is more, and we really start to show a lot of these creatures to where they lose their punch. I think what happens in a movie is when you so often show these creatures and you show them often enough for long enough, that you start to become less afraid of them because it's like exposure therapy. I started to go, they're not scaring me the more you're showing them.
Exactly.
And by the time they're supposed to scare Liz, I'm not going to be afraid of these creatures anymore because they just seem to be dancing silly creatures.
For me to not be scared when she's locked into the basement with them, although at this point I was already guessing like, well, she's gonna come out of this completely fine and she's gonna be the witch and Malcolm's gonna be fucked. But
I think we knew that the second we saw the flashback of the witch and saw it looked like Liz and they killed the witch and we go, okay, Liz is getting revenge in this movie. That does undermine the movie a little bit because we go, oh, it's going to be one of those things.
Right.
Now, I'm sorry, you were going to say something? Go ahead.
No, just about the creatures.
Please.
Yeah, the thing is that I think audiences are a little bit disappointed with this movie because people probably don't have the patience for slow burns in general, and I think that they wanted to at least see a lot of the creatures. So if it was up to me, I would not see them anywhere near this much. But then I feel like the audiences at large would be even more disappointed because it would be way too subtle for them.
Right. You and I just watched a movie, and I don't remember the name of it, but the woman who plays Ygritte is in it, and it's her and her man, and they go out to a cabin.
I think it's just The Honeymoon.
The Honeymoon.
Yeah.
I thought of The Honeymoon while watching this movie. It's a couple that goes to a cabin, and one starts acting weird.
Yeah.
That's the movie. So Honeymoon has a lot more subtlety than this. I think Honeymoon's, if this interests you, check out Honeymoon. But I will say I think the issue is what you're saying is that can audiences sit through a slow burn? I mean, they watched Oppenheimer for 3 hours and it did well. It made a ton of money. You know, I think obviously you're going after a different demographic here, but I don't know. Do you think they show the monsters a lot because of this lack of attention spans we have? It's tough to say. We don't really know.
It's tough to say, and I do hope that it's not going to turn into here's a whole franchise of the creatures and how each of them came to be, you know, because that's a product of the modern age of everything. Everything has to do that, but I don't think Osgood Perkins is like that though, and. Yeah, I wanted to bring up another movie that this made me remind of. It's funny you bring up The Honeymoon because I did think about that, but another one is Men by Alex Garland. Even though there's no couple there, well, there was, but things went bad and the woman is taking a trip by herself. But I feel like there were some similar elements, and that movie, unlike this, at least to me, really holds up until the very end, because I feel like so many movies, Longlegs included, they build up such a compelling mystery, and you keep being like, what is going on? And it already starts to feel like this is too good to be true. The reveal can never live up to the expectation that it's setting.
Sure.
You know?
Yep. That's fair.
And this movie does the same thing, to where I'm like, I'm really compelled by this. I'm really like, I don't have any guesses as to what the reveal is going to be, but I feel like it's going to disappoint me because it's held me in its grip so far. But what could possibly be good enough to really deliver? And Men was one of the rare movies that really delivered. I know that it's very divisive. A lot of people completely hate that movie, but I loved it.
I think it's, we covered it on The Lost Drive-In. I think it's a good movie. I think Men is different though, because I think it's a more metaphorical and operatic tale.
Yeah.
Whereas this is a little bit more literal. Maybe there is something subtle to be revealed here as the moral of the story, but if so, it's lost on me.
I mean, there's the whole like a man, two brothers, they extend their lives for centuries by sacrificing women, and then it all comes back to bite them in the ass.
Yeah, but that's literally what happens.
yeah,
that's my point. It's not.
It has. Well,
I'm not sure what you're getting at.
I'm trying to say that I see metaphors in there, but I don't really have the brain to put it into words at this very moment.
Okay, fair enough. That's fine. So yeah, I think, but no, I think it's definitely. I honestly believe it's worth seeing. I'm glad I saw it, and I would recommend it. I would even go so far as to say I like it, but I don't love it.
Yep, same for me. I liked it a lot until the reveal and the end, to where I was a bit like, it's starting to lose me a little bit. And I had the thought of how I would make it differently if this was my movie.
Sure.
Podcasting.
Fucking armchair nothings.
Armchair nothing. Yeah, I think
That's
it would have
for our
been
next podcast.
it would have been interesting to have this movie, instead of stretching it out until the very end and then delivering the reveal, to have it split in half, to where the first half takes place in the past and tells the story of, for example, Ada, the beautiful redheaded woman that we see in the flashbacks. I wanted to see more of her. I'm like, who is this? I want to see more of her. Wow. It would be interesting to see just a story without any background of what happened, of this man in whatever era that was, ending up sacrificing his wife, and then cut to, out of nowhere, to modern day, and the same story repeating. And we can keep in the whole, like, Liz is the reincarnated witch and things don't turn out the way you would have expected.
That feels like such a Tarantino move, and
It
it's funny
actually does.
because I feel like Osgood, he seems to be influenced by Tarantino a little bit. I might be wrong about that, but when I watched that film Monkey, I was like, this strikes me as, it's got a Tarantino flavor about it a little bit.
Yeah,
But
I liked Monkey, but it felt like a horror movie for children. It felt like It felt like a kids movie with a lot of violence.
It did, for sure.
It had all the silliness of a kids movie, of like, oh, here's the goofy guy with his weird ass suit with flames on it, and all these hijinks and contraptions, his traps.
What you're describing, though, is what Zach Kreger does in Barbarian.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like this movie and then this movie, and then the two movies meet.
That is true.
And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, by the way. I think that could have been a decent idea. I don't really know.
So I just stole somebody else's idea and applied it to this movie, basically.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how to make the movie better. I didn't prepare to talk about that today. But I just will say this. I think it's worth watching. I don't know if you have any final thoughts you want to get out. I do want to get one final thought out, and it's this. This movie strikes me as how it could have been almost cosmic horror in application.
Yeah.
Because you have these two guys who come across this thing, and then they have to pay tribute to this thing forever to maintain what they have in the bargain. That's very Lovecraftian to me. Now, this doesn't play like Lovecraft. It does not play like cosmic horror insofar as that it doesn't have that same atmosphere. You could say it has some tension and tone, but it doesn't have that same atmosphere because it's largely kept secret that this is what happened until the big reveal. Whereas I think in Lovecraftian tales that's made pretty clear that a deal has been made earlier than later, or it's discovered, Innsmouth, for example. But I did think, you could probably reskin this as cosmic horror, and it would be a very interesting movie. But yeah, I think I would rather see some kind of eldritch, strange beings than the circus
escaped
act?
Circus act.
How about some final thoughts from you on this one?
I'm curious to see what Osgood Perkins does next. I feel like he's adding his game little by little, and he's a very interesting filmmaker who I want to see more from. Me
too. I'm glad he exists. I'm glad he is making movies. I think that he has a unique way about him, and I dig that.
Yeah. And I like that he's weird. I like to bring back the weird.
I agree. Bring weird back to cinema a little bit. I like that too. So I'm with you there. It's definitely worth seeing. For the performances, the visuals are pretty cool. There are real spooky moments. Anybody crawling around with a bag on their head is going to be just a little unsettling. Even if even if you start to realize towards the end of the movie, like, oh, okay, she's going to be fine because she was the lady that was killed 200 years ago. That's kind of that undermines the picture for me, that part of it. But I still think it's a worthwhile watch. And that's it. All right. We're going to get out of here. We really appreciate it. Check it out. And we hope you enjoy this little quick cut of our discussion on Keeper from 2025. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next time. And don't forget to comment if you like this kind of short-form content. We enjoyed it. Hope you did too. All right. We're out of here. Bye, guys.